speaking in front of you. But I also recognize that if it wasn't for you guys, I wouldn't be here either, because it's your acts and your influences that like funded the schools and the libraries and the museums that I went to, and I grew up here. And so all of that kind of influences, or is part of why I'm here in front of you today, asking you to use your influence to please help my people and make sure that you divest from Israel, and that you choose not to harm Palestinians, but to instead help them achieve their life, liberty, and pursue happiness. Thank you.
Yes.
Very well spoken. I admire you for being here today.
Well, Mr. Dayton and fellow members of the table, my name is Sabri Wazwaz. I'm also Palestinian. I was born here and I've lived here my whole life. I consider myself an American just as one of you. I'm married to a Palestinian woman, and I'm going to give you a little story about why it's very important to divest, against Israel, and just give you a couple examples of how the apartheid is enforced on the Palestinian people. If you're Palestinian, Christian, or Muslim, you're immediately given a separate ID. On your IDs, it tells the religion you are. There's separate roads for Jews only and separate roads for Christians and Muslims. There's separate license plates for Jews only, and there's separate license plates for Christians and Muslims. There's separate passports. There's separate IDs. Even the laws are different. If an Israeli commits a murderous or a heinous act, nothing happens to that person's home. An example, Dr. Baruch Goldstein walked in a mosque in 1994, where two of my own nephews were in, and gunned down and killed 29 people and injured over 150. Not only did nothing happen to Dr. Baruch Goldstein's home, instead they built a shrine in his cemetery. Only years later, when the international media got wind of it and it started becoming a story, did the Israeli soldiers get ordered to go to that cemetery and remove that shrine. My wife, once they found out that she's married to an American citizen, they stripped her of her ID, and they automatically told her, you can only visit, you can never live there. She was born there through generations, and she was told she can never live there again. The only thing I ever want for my wife to go live there is if something happens to me. I want her to live with her family. She doesn't have no right anymore. Yet, if somebody is Jewish, living in Russia, living in America, living anywhere across the country or the world, they're automatically not only asked to, but they're offered $10,000 to go live there. Yet my wife, who was born and raised there and lived there through generations, is automatically stripped of her citizenship and told you are no longer allowed in your own homeland. You keep hearing about Hamas in Gaza. There is no Hamas in the unoccupied territories. The Palestinians are beaten, humiliated on a daily basis on the checkpoints. Miko Pele is the son of one of the former highest-ranking generals of Israel. He's Jewish. He travels the world telling the truth about what his father told him when he went ahead and finally woke up and went against what the Israeli government is about. Norman Finkelstein, a Jewish professor, both of his parents are Holocaust survivors. You can't get more Jewish than that. He travels the world condemning the acts of the Israeli government. Noam Chomsky, professor of MIT, is Jewish, travels the world, speaks about the atrocities that Israel commits. Rabbi David Weiss, you can't get more religious in the Jewish religion than a rabbi, travels the world speaking against the atrocities of Israel. When over 2,200 Palestinians got murdered, and then the media here just stays silent. I mean, that's no different than when the people stayed silent to what the KKK and the other people did to the African Americans, or even before that, when they slaughtered the Native Americans. That's the same thing when you stay silent. Nobody even had the decency people like ISIS, and the reason I bring up ISIS is because they try to bring that in order with Palestine. Okay.
My name is Kathleen Rona, and I now get the majority of my income from the Public Employees Retirement Association, and I deeply regret and object to the fact that the State Board of Investments is investing that money in Israeli bonds. The theft of Palestinian land goes on a daily basis. Palestinians are abused by the Israeli government. and it bothers me deeply that the United States government continues to support the state of Israel despite the violation of Palestinians' rights to even exist. I really and truly hope that you will divest the state's investments from the state of Israel. Thank you.
Excuse me, I don't think I used the full 4 minutes, so I wanted to take this opportunity to ask the State Board of Investments, I mean, what is it going to take to, how many more massacres need to happen before Israel will be looked at as whether it's a prudent investment or whether they are sufficient human rights violations for us not to be invested? We really want to hear from you, and we really want to understand what it's going to take.
No, you had the opportunity to ask the question. I mean, we have a different view. I have a different view from yours in terms of what's going on in the Middle East and what's the appropriate role for the State Board of Investment to make about investments that were made. I think it was 20 years ago, over 20 years ago, the Israeli bonds purchased 1993. So over 20 years. And, without getting into the weeds of our fiduciary responsibility, et cetera, and the cost of selling those, I would just say that, you brought this issue before the board consistently since I've been chair, and before, however long before that, you've taken your case to court, you've appealed the verdict against you to the Minnesota Supreme Court, and as far as I'm concerned, the case is closed in terms of our decision. Now, I may not be here next January, and maybe other new board members, so we won Mr. Ritchie meeting. So, the board then can bring up and reconsider and take its own action. But from my standpoint, here, we have this debate, we disagree.
Why don't you answer her question?
I respect your right to your own views. And we have right to ours, and so, we're just at a point of disagreement.
Mr. Dayton, I know I used my time, just one simple question. What did you mean when you went to the pro-Israeli protest and said, when asked about Palestinians being bombed, what did you mean when you said they deserve?
I don't recall saying that. I don't believe I said that. I wasn't asking any questions. They're right. You gave remarks. I can go back and look at my prepared remarks on. But I don't believe I said that they deserve it. I don't even use that term.
July 24th, it was in the Star Tribune.
You're quoted as saying that, July 24th.
So answer the question.
I said that. I don't recall saying it. I just answered your question.
Well, you did say it, so what did you mean?
I'll have to go back and remind myself of the context of it.
Could I make...
Well, then I'd say that's the appropriate time for the board will have to reconsider and decide whether you hold on to the same bonds, if the bonds terminate, you have to purchase new ones.
The process is they would mature, and then we have the option to reinvest.
Can you give the body the twin in Palestine? Excuse me. We have purchased new bonds, yes. June 30th next year. So the June meeting of the board 2015 would be the time of the September meeting.
The previous meeting, probably the March.
Okay. Well, March 2015 will be a meeting which will have this on the agenda, and then I think that's the appropriate time to raise the questions that you're raising.
Anything on Ferguson?
Can we hear from the others on the board, the others in your administration?
They are elected by the people of Minnesota independently.
Well, they've got opinions.
Excuse me. I'm going to terminate the meeting if we can't have a simple conversation. I've listened to you. You have an obligation to listen to us. Anybody else want to comment? Okay. Any other
one thing
for
about
investment? Please adjourn.
Friends and allies of Minnesota Break the Bonds campaign, this moment does not end now. We are going to go to the steps of the Capitol to continue rallying and demanding that our state do the right thing and invest. Because even if Governor Dayton believes that the case is closed, we certainly do not.
That's right.
So join me in marching out of the room with a strong and powerful statement.
That's right. Let's go.
We'll be back! We'll be back!